That was quite a major drop. I'm not sure if
That's the biggest
it's
jump.
going to get
That's the
breakthrough
that's the biggest
into.
jump in capability that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to get breakthrough into mainstream news and so on. But
I don't know if it matters even. It's like we got not issues, but we need to react. Like we need
yes,
to make sure we understand this thing. Um,
yeah,
shall I start with what I've been doing with it today?
yes, please. I've barely got started. I got to it late last night. Um,
This sounds
uh,
like the thing that is going to be, $2 grand a month. Like this has the feel like it must be burning tokens.
well, not as much as people burn tokens, as
What?
in salaries.
Oh yeah, but in terms of like $200 for GitHub Pro, I just can't imagine that that would cover anything close to what it's costing um,
Well,
to run Codex.
they got plenty of money, so maybe they'll do a loss leader if they're nice, and see
Okay.
if people use it. Right, what have you been
Uh,
doing?
what am I did? But I feel like I did like a week's worth of work in about a day, half a day, and it was sizzling. Like it was the kind of work that I've avoided. Like I've been like, oh, I know there's a bug in there somewhere. I don't really want to touch it. I can make do without it. I'll just limp along, right?
Yeah.
And this thing is like, uh, here's a good one. Artifact type handling. So there's this sort of a kind of annoying issue.
Well, what's the refactor architect scope type handling? Okay.
So the
Yeah.
task was this was basically that's what the whole task was. Do
Yeah.
you want to? Do you want me to read it out loud, or
No,
you
no.
want?
I'll
No.
just read it. Yeah. I'm quite good at reading. I've been doing it since I was like 7.
7.
I'm getting the hang of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty great at 6. I've been doing it since I was 40.
Yeah, 2 seconds. Okay, all right,
All right,
and yeah,
and that's a really annoying
that's
issue.
that's gnarly.
Yeah,
That's gnarly.
because it's like I accidentally baked it deep into the code structure, and then it only surfaced right at the end when I was like trying to code from the user's point of view, and I had to keep adding in these things like uh, I'll show you an example. Sorry, these are gnarly hunty pecky type problems.
Yeah, this is the you get to 85%, almost done, and this is the thing that takes like twice the amount of time.
Um, this might not be the right thing. Yeah.
I don't really need the details, but
All right.
your experience of it.
Yeah. And so the amount of work it did, like this was the work that it expended to arrive at that tiny little commit. Like it's grinding hard, and it appears to not be reading the code directly. It's using Linux commands and then reading the output of the Linux terminal. So it's using
Yeah,
like,
it's running in a sandbox, isn't it?
well, yeah, but it's not. It never has a concept of the file. It only has a concept of these Linux commands and the standard out, standard error results. That's all
Yeah.
it knows. And
Uh-huh.
so it like watching it work is like you're like, oh man, sometimes it wanders off and meanders around and you're like, dude, that's so bad. But I mean, my finger's gonna get arthritis before I scroll to the bottom, right? But it's like just ground. It's actually pretty quick for the amount of work it's doing because I guess it's running on their servers and maybe there's not that many people, whatever. Anyway,
Oh my god.
on.
Whoa. That's
And
a
then we
lot of
get this thing.
that's a lot of thread. Yeah.
at the end. And
It
all you got to do,
says make artifact generic over its scope.
yeah. So I was like, hey, what's some ideas? And it's like, well, this is what's going on, and this is how you can fix it. You know, and then I'm like, all right, go do it. And then, yeah, it ran off and ground through all the stuff. It gives you the diff in, and then you just go here and you just create a new PR in GitHub, and then it PRs.
I've been watching a bunch of. I've got some highly cool guys that I follow who have been reacting to this, as in, you know, going through it, and they are all stunned because they feel like monkey coders.
I am a monkey. So this was from 6 hours ago. This was the number of actual acceptable PRs that I merged in to the code base. Some of them are minor, like updating the agent instructions, but a lot of them are like, they're also like broad sweeping things that I was like, it would take me so long to go through it. I wouldn't even dare ask Cursor to try and do it.
Yeah, because your context window is smaller than this context window.
Well, and it can loop. It's accurate. It's good at coding. It's elegant. It doesn't change a lot of stuff. It's minimal. The pull requests are good quality. And then, you know, if it doesn't work, you just fire it off again. So, you know, in just, what are we at, 6 hours, I fired off 46 tasks.
Yeah. Is this? I haven't looked at the cost for this. I know it popped up, as I said, about 1700 my time on my pro account, and I threw it at a couple of repos. I was using the ask because I didn't want to fuck anything up, but it worked immediately. But have they said anything? I've not seen anything about costing. I mean, this is
They said that they've given us generous limits on it in the pro accounts. They're going to see how it gets used, and then they're going to adjust pricing accordingly. But this feels like, for now, we get to go for gold, but it feels like there's no way that $200 is covering the amount of burn.
No.
No.
It's going to be more than that,
right? And I never want to do anything less than this. Like, I only want coding to get better than this, and I kind of don't need my computer anymore. I just need a browser. So when I started using this, I was actually on the Quest headset, using the Quest browser to fire off jobs to Codex and then create PRs. And that's sort of how it should be.
It should be. And also, when you think about traditional, back when, you know, we had a team that was pulling $100,000 a month, and we were still having to fly out physically and then, you know, painfully take them through what they were doing right and what they're doing wrong. There's no going back from this.
There's no going back, no. And so the problem is to say, well, you know, so what? And then how much of this impacts what we were doing and what we were thinking we would do?
Well, remember, our gold nugget is still stocks. There's nothing here. The stocks are still in your brain, right? So you need to prompt it and say, oh, I have this problem.
Yep. But they're talking about integrating with GitHub issues and like triggering the agent based on an issue being filed, right? And you start to see, well, that's not too far from the same functionality that Stux would give.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, let's not be hopeful. Let's be accurate. It would feel to me. One of the insights I got from using this is that long-running multi-step agentic looping or grinding, let's call it, that is not a game for the faint of heart. Like, that's a model provider level game. And so, like, OpenAI, with all their cache, skills, experience, and all that, have only just managed to make long run agentic output be useful. And so long run is not where we should ever be dreaming of going. Right.
No, I agree. I've come to that same conclusion. Remember when we were talking about judges and a court
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
that sort of thing? That's been
So
overtaken
long
by
run's
events.
bad. I think that there's a really big benefit for us or an advantage that we have is that we're trying to change what the code does, or what the target operating system or target environment of the code is. Because if you're trying to hit these broad sprawling infrastructures, or like naps and widgets, keep it extremely focused. And so because the same economics apply to this agent. The best code is no code. And if you can avoid having, just because you got an agent that can solve really hard problems with a few clicks of a button, that still costs you time. And so an efficient substrate, a very minimal way to get value out of your code is turns out, I think, just as valuable. And I think that's really what I want to bring to you and try to highlight here, is that efficient infrastructure, efficient programming paradigm doesn't matter how good the AI gets. It's always good because it's relative. It's relative.
So it doesn't matter how big your TV screen gets, so long as you get power to it.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean that. Give me a pause so I can come up with a decent example here. This is subtle and important.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a bad example that's better than any other one I can come up with. Two runners, sprinters. One of them's a very inefficient runner, and one of them takes the time to learn how to run elegantly, efficiently, hones his body down, right? And then sort of the difference between them is very small in terms of timing, right? But what I'm trying to illustrate, and do please help me once I finish dropping this bad example, they both get given the limitless drug. They both boost up. The leaner, more elegant, the guy that focused on efficiency, is still going to be faster than the brute that got boosted with the same amount. And
Some of
so
my favorite movies.
It doesn't.
I get what you mean.
It doesn't. I'm starting to realize it doesn't matter how good the AI gets. If your infrastructure paradigm sucks, you'll still lose out to a more leaner, efficient type of a system.
I agree, and it reminds me of I can't remember which Olympics, maybe 2020, something like that. The British cycling team won gold because they had what was called the Department of Micro Improvements, and it came down to making sure that the cyclist didn't have his wedding ring on because that added drag.
Yeah.
And they won gold. Is pause. Yes, I think you're right, because there's no way we can outpace or even guess what's going to be dropped in 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years.
No. But what I've been looking at is we've seen a year and a half worth of drops, and every time we see what gets ripped away or who gets swallowed, right? And we look at things getting eaten that we're like, oh, that was nearly, we were gonna go down that path, and then we didn't. And we just need to keep focusing on what we're doing, because this is making us better. It may be doing some of the things that we wanted, but it turns out I think those things didn't even matter. They were just what we saw as inevitable. Like, we needed the AI to get there. And what we're really trying to push is an efficiency paradigm where the modules or the code is so tight, small, modular, and easy to control by LLM that it can be assembled on the fly as jitters. We're trying to make the stuck loop where the problems are so tightly integrated into the construction that they almost effortlessly, ambiently fall into the workload of the long run agents that do the code, right? Those integrations within the system. And then the real winner, I think, still remains the ambient attribution
Yes, this is what I was
system,
about to say.
because it's starting to look like if this agent can do the work of, at a guess, like at a random number, let's say it's 50 dudes. Let's say that I can control the output of 50 people. What should I do about that? And the answer is, it doesn't matter. But if I found another 10 people like me, like you, that can command this workforce and can integrate with customers and understand business problems and identify revenue streams, that group is going to outpace any individual.
I think that, I mean, we talked about this about 4 months ago. Is like, what is our actual core difference?
The
And
core difference is
it's
the
holding up.
coordination, and the fairness, because the rate that I'm able to generate code. I apologize for speaking over you. I will stop soon. I feel this is super important to get out. The rate at which I'm able to generate code means that the rate at which I would want to move on to the next project, the next contract, the next business deal, the next this and that, is faster than the contractual substrate currently can handle. And so if me and you and a bunch of other guys like us need to move at that pace through the capital system, it won't keep up. And we will fight each other, because there'll be so much opportunity that we'll be scrambling and choking and bumping into each other and falling apart like a bunch of dudes that got given a bag of Coke and they weren't ready for it at all, right? And then, but if we build the ambient attribution agent, it tells us what's fair, and we just go for it, and we invite anyone else to come on board. We don't have any onboarding session. We're just like, just go. Then suddenly people like us can light up in all corners of the world, anywhere, everywhere, and we're now a pack, a team. If we believe in the ambient attribution agent looking after all of us, we become a decentralized, darkly coordinated or emergently coordinated hunting pack, basically.
Wolf pack, yeah. I agree, and I think when we talked about this originally, I think you mentioned this is our last redoubt. So here is a thought experiment. The agents, the AIs, continue to increase, and their doubling speed is what, 4 months right now. Perhaps a little less, maybe 6 months. Eventually, a couple of years from now, it's going to be trivial to actually create something. Right. So that value goes away. Now, the value then comes down into what to create, which is the stocks. Because the stocks have value because there's someone willing to, they need a problem solved. They've got value to them, therefore, there's going to be an exchange of some kind of value. It's got to be around the stocks, which is why I think about 4 days ago I was texting that idea around if we could optimize for network growth.
Yeah, whilst I agree with you, I do not. I believe that what you're talking about is a complication or a consequence of what ambient attribution will enable, because ambient attribution will allow for the front loading of the token cost by anybody in fair exchange for a back payment of attribution. And so, whilst that is a beautiful thing to hope for, it is also something that will naturally result if we get
Right.
ambient attribution going.
Okay,
Do you
let me
agree?
riff on that. I agree. Let me riff on it. So, if we assume that at some point it's going to become so cheap to create code that my grandmother can do it, the value of any particular piece of code reduces to close to zero. It's like token cost. Okay, so then if you're in a business, it's like, well, then it comes to away from capex of code generation to opex. So if we can get a lower opex to actually run this thing, then we're going to win. And then, given the network, ambient attribution comes in about expanding the number of operations that are actually running on it, and that expansion comes from new ideas. So I think we need to devalue code generation and assume that at some point, pretty soon, is going to be getting close to as many, dollars as you have. But OPEX is still going to be an issue. If we're zero cost and getting value from the interaction of the network, just like Facebook, then we're probably onto possibly a winner. However, then there's the generation of the stocks themselves and how those are used. But the OPEX is like an intermediary step.
I'm sorry, I've lost you. Like I feel like I sort of had you, but then you kind of looped back on things you said before. Do you want to compact it down a bit, or?
Yeah, I can compact it down. There's a reason Facebook's free. It's because they value the number of users and the interaction and the data that they get from them. Now, in our term, we are looking to create possibly what is the last social network, which is the social network of ideas and innovation, which has not been done. So we need to maximize network growth. We do that by minimizing cost of entry, assuming that anyone can turn up and a smart person within 30 minutes can do a week's worth of work or whatever it's going to be. So any solution, any problem can be solved rather quickly, but it still needs a human brain in there, saying, okay, so in this situation, this is what they're after.
Yep, I agree with all that. Those are all well spelt out, well realized claims and hopes and statements
so,
about us.
So if we get the OPEX down, so someone's generated something and is running on our platform and it's costing them less than having to do it themselves. It's costing them less because it's being funded from elsewhere.
Yep, I agree with that. We've gone over that plenty of
Yeah.
times before.
The elsewhere is the ambient attribution, which I think is our last redoubt. That is our, hill to die on.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the lamp. That thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are some other niche areas that we still appear to have no one trying to get in on, which is the fact that being blockchain compatible means that we can go past the edge or in the edge or in disconnected environments.
That's an interesting thing because I had a couple of conversations yesterday on this. There are a lot of wealthy organizations, evidently, has been reported to me, that are not going into AI because they can't be audited.
Yeah, so if we can provide an entirely in-house auditable, it's just another app, guys. It's running on your servers. It's just another app, but it has feature compatibility with the coolest, latest, greatest stuff. Plus, it has a lower server burn because you can just have each desktop doing some of the job. Like that's still a very useful thing. But that on its own isn't useful. It has to deliver the features on parity with the mainstream cloud offering, and then that disconnection becomes super useful.
Yes, I agree. And I also think there's a window on that auditability because it's an obvious problem to solve. Probably there are teams much larger than the 2 or 3 of us.
Yeah, let's not forget how many people we had working on this problem that closed off large numbers of possible paths that are very, very tempting to go down. So, like, we represent basically the Apollo moon lander of efforts. Like, we have burned our share of millions of dollars to learn that this is how you go around the moon.
That's right. But what I'm getting is a lot of demand from companies.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. So there's that demand. Then there's like this crazy amount of pressure building where everyone now knows that they can get the software they always wanted, not for cheap, but at all. Like, a lot of projects don't happen because they're like, I don't trust that this project is deliverable. I don't know where to start. And now we have these AI agents that can spit out value if they're driven by the right person.
We've kind of got. Sorry, go on.
Now, what I want to focus on here is that the ambient attribution piece is more important than just greedily going out and grabbing users and money and all that, because it permits scale. And that's the thing that will break many teams, is that they start winning and the winning will crush them because they won't be able to hold it together, and they'll be doing so many business deals that their deal engine can't keep up.
Yes.
Because where I'm ultimately seeing this go is that you just can't, if you assume that all knowledge goes to zero cost, you just can't beat customers that are already paying for something that they can't live without. For example, rubbish collection, bedding, sheets, towels, homes, clothes, food. All these. You're never gonna. You can be as smart as you like. You can be AGI. If you can't feed me, I'm gonna burn you down. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Those things
It's an interesting use case that we've got live when we want to pick it up, which is coordinating hotel. And no amount of AI is going to get the sheets off the bed and remade.
Yeah. Now, some of that might come with robotics, but I think that's a whole nother journey, and we can get into that when the time is right. But the fundamental thing it feels like we got to get going is the ability to raise bursty little bits of capital to acquire conventional businesses that have a customer base and an existing operation, to rapidly terraform them into an AI, now an agentic focused company, a standards-based, highly efficient, zero overhead, minimal. It can never be zero, these businesses, but there's just no overhead loss. There's no inefficiency. Everything's running fairly on the inside. It's transparent. The people working there are happy that they're getting a good deal. The people fixing the problems are happy. The tech people are happy. Like, it's all running fairly. And then raise capital, do that again, but scale the team that does that. So we would go in and do the first few and then say to everyone, look, this is the ambient attribution system. You don't need to wait for us. We'll come and help you if you got a good reason for us to look at you next. But anyone should be able to pick up that torch and carry it.
Well, right? Here's an example, I think, that speaks to exactly what you just said.
I don't need support of it. What I need is I got some questions that come as to how you see the future and how we should see the future, because we need to believe that the same thing's coming, or figure out what the difference is.
Okay. Well, let me answer that question then. I think.
Do you think?
Sorry. Go on.
Do you think that there is a flash fire coming where over half or 90% of the current consumer-facing service industries are terraformed into AI-run companies, one way or another?
Yes, I mean that's self-evident.
Is it?
From law to customer service.
Yeah. Who's talking about that?
Many are looking at using AI.
Yeah, using it, but no one's talking about, well, if there's this terraform like phase change where suddenly the ice block just melts, or like suddenly it goes to water vapor, like what suddenly it hits boiling point. What does that world look like, and who's part of it, and who's doing what roles in that world? That's what I'm not hearing anyone talk about.
I'm seeing a lot of people who are betting on now based on tradition.
Yeah, because what else can you do, right? That's a very tempting thing, but it seems that's really the gist of what I want to talk to you about. That's wrong. And here in this tool, we got our strongest signal ever that our current way of thinking was wrong. We'd known it was wrong for a while, and we'd been constantly adjusting and adapting and steering. But here comes a thing that says, if you did this leap another 5 times, what fucking world are we in? And are we doing the right thing every day?
Pause. Yeah. I'm still a believer in the idea that the value is in ideas. And let me give you a reason for that. Is because the real world for now, pre-AGI, is we're seeing what can be done with something that's very close to AGI for code. It's going to expand. Where does it meet the limit? So, for example, my brother is currently trying to acquire the company he's working for, which is in demolition. Now, sure, robotics, fine. But inside of that organization, there's going to be a whole wealth of cost savings and quality improvements that can be done. And not least of which, for example, the actual acquisition itself, the M&A is an obvious one. So I think that at the moment we got an arbitrage situation where people are trying to use the tools that have just dropped in order to make tools that reflect previous traditions. They're
Right.
trying they're trying to use these tools to write code.
I know.
Like that seems
Yeah, or
obviously
trying to
stupid.
use the tools to write legal contracts when really the winning move is to make a system where you don't need the contract in the first place.
Right, right, exactly. And so I think the smart move here is to not try to replicate what was done before just because we've got, agents who will do it for us, um, but to move forward from that to think about um, how do we um, how do we capture the value of if we assume that the current doubling speed is going to continue, how do we capture the value of something that we assume will just be done for close to zero cost? I mean,
Is that the
depending on the
question you
use.
have? Like you're putting down the question or refining the question that you want answered?
No, that's a question. Where do we go when? Let's take the digital world because that's the easiest one. When it's you can talk to a system and generate a business, even down to the legals. Where does the value come from?
Right. And you're saying that the value is in the ideas, and I'm actually saying that I disagree with that. Actually,
Uh-huh.
I think that the value is in the um, the perfection of the coordination between the participants. The ideas are not. You could have the best ideas in the world. Let's take Nazi Germany, and you can fall flat on your face.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not the ideas. It's how the ideas are coordinated, shared, distributed,
Deduplicated.
deduplicated,
That's a big one.
amplified, incentivized, and the theory is that if you could do that fairly with near zero overhead ambiently, that's maximum value. That's maximum gain. I argue that yes, having a system that enhances ideas and value ideas is of course useful. Of course that's useful. But that is a natural alignment that comes from incrementally or asymptotically approaching perfect coordination. As a consequence of that comes
You're starting to speak to Smith's perfect market, aren't
the
you? Where
closer you can
everyone
approach the
knows
perfect
everything.
market, the idea rate naturally follows, and that's why I'm trying to block you there and say it's not the ideas. Again, it's coming down to the ambient attribution system
Nah.
every
Oh.
time.
Right. Oh. Sorry.
Go,
Right.
yeah,
Can I interrupt?
sure.
Um. What I think you're saying, and quite rightly, I've been talking about the ideas as a precursor or prerequisite to alignment of incentives.
You've been talking about it as an effect of a
Yes, but the
environment with the
cause,
incentives were aligned.
the cause is everyone's pushing in the same. Well, there can be multitude of incentives, but if you can combine dedupe, etc., incentives, then you get maximal um, innovation.
So if you've got a fair system and you've got a lossless universal transmission system and a perfect memory,
Yeah, then
that's as maximum as you can get.
we're betting that our bet is on that everyone agrees that fairness is the best way of doing it. Because
Yes, I don't mean to disagree to nitpick, but I would suspect that we don't need everyone, and I would suspect even further we only need a very small number. I think it's less than
Sure,
1%. If we
sure,
found
yeah,
if we found
yeah.
less than 1% of people who were like us that understood or believed that that's the only way to go, and they were able to wield the power that we can wield, and
Th-
the team
then
doesn't
there
fall
would
apart,
there'll be princes. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
absolutely. Don't we don't need everyone,
We
but
don't need everyone.
the core is the alignment of incentives.
That's right. And this is really what I come to with. Again and again I see the world around us, the forest lit on fire. I see the rivers drained. I see the mountains crumble as every time there's a new drop from a major AI producer. Everything we thought was going to be the value that we were going to thrive off, it singed us everywhere, right? Right, but every single time, ambient attribution is no one's even talking about it, no one's building it. It becomes even more possible because it is a wild idea. If you had no AI, ambient attribution would sound fucking like horse
Man,
shit, right?
honestly,
Yeah,
if this works,
right.
we're up there with
Right.
Marx.
But look at this thing that landed today is pointing towards ambient attribution being plausible, possible, possibly reachable within this year, even in a crusty version. Let's not discount how well a poor version can function. A poor version run by a model of O3 that was superior to every PhD student or PhD graduate on the planet will still outperform any human.
I agree.
All right. So
There,
all I'm trying to really, really sort of dive at here and tackle and latch a hold of is that ambient attribution is all there is for us. It's the only thing that makes us any different. And it's an incredibly powerful thing because no matter what technology and enhancements arrive, we will simply just absorb them and put them on Artifact. Because Artifact, we've proven that it's a solid substrate that you can bolt any kind of new intelligence onto. And that's cool for
yes,
different reasons, but you need that for ambient attribution to be trustworthy. And so you don't need that if you don't want to do ambient attribution, but you just want to do the features that we talk about in the Dreamcatcher. You don't need all the stuff we're doing, and you'll be fighting directly with OpenAI and all those guys.
yes, I agree. The ambient attribution is all about. Remember that card game way back in the Skunkworks? When we were looking at,
Yeah,
yeah, the band, capital, talent, and market.
yep.
It still holds. It's held for many years in all this thing, and it still holds. I don't see anyone else talking about that kind of meta level. But there is, I would say, an arbitrage opportunity where most people are trying to use these tools just to replicate traditionally.
Yeah, and we might
Did
we might need to do a bit of that, because I was starting to get this awfully nervous feeling that there's some big bills coming because the power that Codex unlocks, and I can see the token burn that this thing's causing them. I'm like, I don't think you can afford to include that as a $200 a month thing. That's
no,
not enough money.
that's going to evaporate pretty quick.
Yeah.
But we've got a dozen companies who'd be willing to pay
Yeah, but it's
that
almost like
cost. So
this is the strategy I want to put here.
mm,
It's almost worth just closing our eyes to all of that and just getting the most simplest basic form of ambient attribution up.
yes,
Right?
the
Which is a dangerous move, but I'm trying to point to you that I'm like, if you look at the trend of what gets burnt away each drop, ambient attribution continues to shine. it continues to be free of any competition. Not that that's a good thing, but it's still free of competition. And it continues to be, for all our hopes and dreams, the catalyst, the ignition, the thing that sets it all off. Everything else that we hope for in the Dreamcatcher is a derivative or a consequence of ambient attribution.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. The practical side of that is ambient attribution benefits hugely from network effects. If it's the two of us, well, we've been effectively doing ambient attribution. The more people that we get coming in, now maybe these are rare people, we don't need that many, but we do need a network effect. The more people that we get in, the more powerful it's going to get, and it's going to probably be explosive because it's so easy to do stuff that's traditional.
Right. So we get a very simple version of ambient attribution up, and then we start doing some mini terraforming experiments, and then we raise some cap to be like, there's this sort of flash mob thing going on. There's going to be a race on to turn companies into...
Well, here's... sorry to interrupt, but here's a question for you. It seems like someone who is smart enough to figure out what we've just been saying would pour money into this. Because why wouldn't you? We've got a revolution going on that is driving cost for traditional software and probably into hardware design, robotics, driving it rapidly to close to de minimis. What do you do about that? How do we get enough cash that we can actually incentivize the network to do these things using the concept? My experience of investors is that they are really quite traditional because they made money knowing what they know.
Sorry, I'm missing what you're trying to tell me here. I understand what you're saying, but those sound like just reiterations on agreed points.
No, my specific question is, who do we go to, or
who
what group of people do we go to in order to?
I don't think we need to solve that now. I think that the power that this tool gives us, we will be able to mine human networks to find it. We will be able to process a large amount of interactions with people. And
yeah, okay, yes, I sort of agree with that.
I also don't think that it matters now. Like, the point is, we believe that we can find these people at the time. We also have some. We've got the trucking guys that are going to be like a deployment, which is a proven use case, and then we've got other companies like in the family type of things. I won't mention them specifically here.
Yep.
And then that's another kind of proof or use case. And I don't think so long as we've got ambient attribution, at that point, that is the start of the race. The starting gun is off, and we run around and we do whatever we can. We build whatever tools we need. We talk to whoever. We big cheat, borrow, steal, whatever, to grow like mad because we have ambient attribution. But that's the starting gun until we can ambiently attribute.
Yeah, you said something about 18 minutes ago, or roughly, that I think resonated in that we don't need that many people.
You don't, man.
Because the tool is such a leverage.
The tool's so powerful.
But
it's like that in the world anyway. Like
true believers. Yeah.
The amount of stuff that actually gets done in the world, the ratio of people who do stuff versus just don't,
Yeah.
it's kind of small. Like I'd say it's less than 1% of people actually net contribute.
Yeah. I see. 99% of statistics.
Well,
1%. Who knows? It's a de minimis. What we're saying is, with 100 good people, um, this would actually be really powerful.
right, with 100 good people, where the AI was ranking us and kicking and demoting and promoting, and basically purely performance based metrics on this cluster of people, that's an extremely efficient fighting force, right? And
Yes.
what is the force to do? I really don't think there's any point spending any time on it. All I'm trying to advocate for is that we should really just shut our fucking eyes to everything and get ambient attribution up in whatever means we can.
Yes, I'd agree with that. However, um, the substrate is required.
That's coming, and that's coming extremely fast. So right now I'm just whacking off tasks that I've been too afraid to touch. Um, I'm about to. I'm currently. You could explain my efforts as preparing. So I'm getting all the cleanup done. I'm removing all the code that doesn't belong there, making sure the AI doesn't see anything strange, and
Oh,
I'm
your
getting
backlog.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tech debt. I'm starting to clean up all the repos in the arrangement, so we can start using this tool to produce naps and naps with widgets, and then just present that as the thing. And that feels extraordinarily close. Like this week, next week, like it feels like right knocking on the door of here's the damn thing. Because really hooking up the UI and solving the bugs that go with the integration of the UI in the back end, that was kind of all that was left to do anyway at the point that I got it to. And now I got this tool that just like smashes code bases.
Well, let's think about uh, well, I guess you call it launch. I don't know what it's just launch. It's like chucking up in the air and hoping the rocket is going to go off. Um, we've got maybe half a dozen people who get it. We've got more demand than we've got people who can actually meet that demand.
That's
Uh,
I don't worry about that at all. Like we know that we can drum up supply. Like we know that we can find people to do work. We've got a broad range of contacts once we have that demand captured correctly.
well, the filter is almost, do you get ambient attribution? If you do, then you're in. If you don't, then
That even that might not matter. Like if you get it, great. If you don't, we'll just move on. Like we will be running around hauling in demand and connecting up supply. And honestly, if you don't get it, I don't care. We're going to move on. Like we are in, what's the word for it? It's just, we're just going to burn through people. We don't have time. We don't need to convert anyone. We, churn is on our side. Like we can just,
yes, churn is the thing, isn't
churn
it?
is on our side. Like we can
Yeah,
just burn. But it's like, this is the offer. You don't like it. Don't talk to me. Talk to the bot. I don't
yeah,
have time. I'm sorry. Here's what's going on, right? Don't say we didn't tell you about it.
yeah. And if you don't get it and you don't like it, go away.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Or
and
fucking
those who
stick
are
around and
left
burn some
is
tokens. I don't know, but
yeah.
um, I guess that's kind of where I'm at.
I agree with all this. No, I'm trying to think of any counter arguments because we're getting possibly into an echo chamber here. Um, where are the problems? The problems, I think, are around. There's a tendency for people with stocks to try and keep them secret.
All those things are fine. Those are still common behaviors. They'll probably be the majority of behaviors for many years. I don't care about those. I think that the biggest weakness for us is that we don't really know how to do ambient attribution. Is actually the heart of the problem. We feel like we've only just figured out the substrate. Great, whoop-de-doo, pat on the back. We feel like we've only just figured out where to put agents in the system. Okay, that's more impressive, but still. And now we think we know how to put an ambient attribution agent in the system, but we don't know, and we haven't even spoken about how the fuck do we prompt, program, eval, train that agent.
Ah, that's interesting because that's the part I've been really relaxed about because the whole point of ambient attribution is it self-trains and
That's
improves
bullshit,
based.
dude. Yeah, but we need to make a basic version, and we don't
Well,
have.
well, yeah, yeah, but you could do a basic version now. You could
Could
do
you?
lines of code. Yeah, lines of code, or how many
Oh no,
times.
come on. Now that's just taking the piss.
No,
Like,
no, no, no. But that is no, that's
nah, you we
impl-
we it, we owe it to ourselves to make something a little more sophisticated than that. The issue
yes,
is that when you get even a little bit more sophisticated, it becomes a lot more complicated, right? So
yeah.
that's really the heart. That's the outstanding issue that we have right now. That's our problem, is that we don't have a plan, a design, an approach for the ambient attribution agent. And I don't think that it's fair to say that, well, Tom, you haven't produced the substrate or the agents thing. That's true, but we also can imagine what it is now. And we have all these cool tools now. Um, where do we start? What do we do? Because I don't know.
Well, the whole point of this is it's a self-improving system. So what you're saying is, what is the base that you can improve from?
Yeah. And I say to you that the base needs to be an AI that is using frontier models, so smarter than a human, that presents compelling arguments for why it chose a certain split.
So,
But hang on, there's another component to that. It
mhm.
also needs to do so consistently and in the face of argument.
Oh, that's harder. Okay, I don't have an answer to that second one.
Well, you
Um,
might not you might not need an answer to the second one immediately, because what you could say is that, if in its beta phase or alpha phase, it's like a gentleman's agreement, or gentle persons, whatever, if we're still doing that.
eh,
Um,
mhm.
the point is that if I start trying to subvert the agent, all of my chats would be public, and so you'd see me trying to underhandedly sway the agent. And so that's sort of a little bit like, oh, buddy, don't do that. That's kind of stupid. But that's that's like early bird grace. But I don't believe that it's impossible, what I'm asking. I think it's within our grasp and within our reach, particularly with the tools we have. And I'm saying that, can we please get started on that most important of pieces? Because I don't really know how to do that. I don't know.
Well, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice, but it's a few years ago that we properly went into attribution, thinking that let's get contribution and a platform, and it's kind of now possible,
We have
but it's
contribution, and we have a platform, and we have very intelligent agents that run for cheap enough that they can view all the contributions. Now
right,
what?
right. So now bear with me on this one. The very base is use a piece of code, and your attribution is based on how often that piece of code is, and that could be leveraged in terms of this piece of code is actually the critical piece. Yeah, I can figure that one out. That would be a really basic idea. We've also got the.
Am I still bearing with you, or can I interject now?
Bear with me on this one.
More bears. Okay.
We've also got the soft influences like project management, like sales to deal with, that are not so easy to measure. And then there's the whole merge dedupe thing. How do we make that fair? That's probably not going to be a 50-50 deal. So those are the questions. Okay, so over to you.
I think that the first version needs to produce its answers in the form of impact crystals. The impact crystals would be a structured JSON output, and it would be able to give you a plain text response about the reasoning why the values were chosen as they were. And I think that the first version should be soft in that it is not hard-coded at anything, but it evaluates and crunches down into atomic principles anything that anyone says to it, and it should be prompted to use its own inbuilt innate intelligence without any external resources, so just relying on the pure training at the heart of the model to decide whether the new piece of RAG, the new piece of a fact that was given to it, is true or not and should be considered. And I think that if we have a system that can sit there and listen to arguments like that and keep crunching those atoms down out of all the conversations it has, that's a starter for 10.
Pause. The key here is in trust, isn't it? Decentralized trust. You know the system is not going to be swayed by anyone putting their finger on the scale. And that trust.
I agree that it's trust, but I disagree with the bar you set for it.
The bar?
The trust need only be being able to see the contributions that were made to the scale.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I see the scale.
Yes, no,
right?
That's what I mean by trust. Trust is that no one can put their finger on the scale. As in, everyone's got the same algorithm.
Please pardon me for being. I do not mean to be pedantic here, but we are actually overtly trying to put a finger on the scale, and we're saying that it is the current frontier bot's finger, and we're trying to leverage or boost off in the interim the base sense of fairness, truth, and accuracy that the model trainers have had to bake into the models, because if they didn't, the models would be, like, they'd get uproar out of people, right? Like, they've tried to make models that were the average of everything, and we're trying to leverage that because we can't do that ourselves.
I'll refine my previous thing.
Good.
No human puts their thumb on
No
the scale.
human. Well, even then, I don't know why you need to reduce it down to a single statement. It is a cool statement, but it's basically that the scale is indifferent to them. It doesn't matter.
It's a machine.
It's cold. It's right.
Yeah.
And so I think that all it needs is that first version can be quite simple in that it starts off, it's a bot, and it's almost unprompted, right? And you're like, how much is this worth? And it's like, oh, blah 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 blah. And then you're like, why? And it's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah, yeah,
And you're like,
yeah.
nah, but project managers don't do anything. And then it's
Exactly.
like, hang on, and all it needs is a loop to
Yeah.
determine whether the fact that was presented to it warrants being stored as correct, or should it mutate something that's already in there, or should it replace it? And I think that's all, right?
Right, right, right. No, I heartily agree. And that a human putting their thumb on the scale is obviously going to optimize for what they want.
And
And
they
that's
should.
that's
But
not fair.
the point is that if everyone put a thumb on, the scale ends up balanced, because that's what AI is. The AI is
Yes.
everyone's thumbs on the
AI is
scale. The
AI is
AI
the
is the
scale.
average guy. It's
No,
the average.
AI is the scale. It's like if everyone puts their thumb on the scale, um, what's measuring? And the AI is, and it's so
Yeah, I'd go even deeper than that. I think that it's actually beneficial to stress the model where the humans are pulling, pushing, and arguing with the model, and then where the flop comes while it's under high tension, that's going to be a great answer,
yeah,
right?
or at least be the rules of the game, right?
Yeah. So
You pay.
I think that's a starter for 10, buddy. Like that's something that we could go to market with, that we could engage with people. Like we could go talk to Troy, we could go talk to Ben, we could go talk to all the people we've ever met and be like, we want to do some deals, we want to do some work, we want to do this and that, and this is the system. And I think that
Yeah,
people would be kind of okay with that, because let's keep in mind that there is a social network. You talk about a social network, but I want to now call out what the impact of that is. That means that you and I are friends. And
yeah.
even if we have this bot that's a little bit shonky and I determine that I can sleight of hand it, I'm probably going to show you as a joke. Like, I'm not going to dick you, just like it's not worth it to dick you over
Oh,
anyway,
that's such a
right?
really good
So
that's a
there's a
really good
natural kind
analogy.
of a spirit of fairness there a little bit, and then the bot's there to really just hear the grievances. Like if it's egregiously wrong, then we're like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, we all sort of like, and then we can even have the bot aware of votes, where it's not a vote like count the votes and then that is how it shall be. It's like if we all weighed in and said something to the bot, that's the same as voting, but better, because we put in personal effort to think up a reason and say, hey, this is that. Saying me too or I agree shouldn't influence the bot. It's like, I don't care. I have the voices of billions of humans in my head. I don't need another one. But if you come up with something knowledgeable, that's great. And why I think this is a good design is because it allows you to make bots designed to grind on the arbitrator. And so you can almost have this weird system of fine tuning, or like preference of optimization going on, where we can automatically thrash the bot to refine it, hone it, and make it so solid in its
Oh,
ideas.
we're so close here. We're so close here.
Ah.
We're modeling trust, aren't we? I mean, this is a rhetorical question, but I would trust you with my kids, and I don't know, but I assume reciprocal. Why? We've had lots of interactions where we've reinforced that trust. It's like, hey, you know, still here, doing this year after year, through hard times and good. There
Still
is,
waiting on the good.
yeah. Well, hopefully it's coming quite soon. That'd be quite nice. But modeling trust around reputation. Now, reputation is contribution. Contribution is indelible. And then the arbiter bot that is agreeing attribution also needs to build that trust. It's making the right decisions, or it's making relatively fair decisions, but it's also updating itself and so on.
Yeah, updating
So
itself. And so really the only key component that we don't have right now is this the background dream loop, where it sort of considers what it did in the or what it was received in the context of everything else it's ever known, where it does some internal structural rearrangement, where
With the arguments that were put, where
yeah,
someone said that was not
yeah,
fair,
and
right?
that honestly, like what I think you might find as a fun experiment
Mm-hmm.
is to use this codex tool, to try and loop over a bunch of arguments or statements and then reduce them down, because that's
I was looking at Alpha Evolve for that as well, because Alpha Evolve.
yeah. So I think really that's probably the task to solve, right? Is all of these atoms or arguments or points are going to be stored as text in they're going to be stored as text files,
Right.
and they may or may not have some pointers to git commits in repositories as examples. Like, you're like, that's what a great day's work looks like, or here's an example of someone just changing the spacing in the file to get new stuff, right? And so
Yeah.
really the tool that we would want the codex agent to grind over is, how do you take new arguments, new threads that have occurred, and then loop over to make any changes you think make sense, where sense is up to the model to decide, makes sense to include, and then now that's the new corpus, that's the new law.
That seems to be the way, isn't it? And it's going to have to balance probabilities. Is like if someone states a statement of fact, but they've got a poor reputation for lying.
No, man, nope. Disagree. Hard disagree.
Why? Because,
Reputation's got fuck all to do with it. Reputation has got nothing to do with the correctness of your statement.
If I was to say black is white, that would be taken in the same level, say in any kind of logical structure, as white is white. Now you got 50-50, but it's like black is not white, white is white.
That makes no sense to me, that argument. I don't know what you're trying
to... The guy who said black is white has also said purple is white and pink is white and so on. He's got a reputation of giving poor information. The provenance of the information is really important.
No, it's absolutely not. It's dangerous to think like that, because provenance can be gamed or faked or whatever. It's correctness that matters, not provenance.
Yes, but correctness requires some kind of absolute.
But it's up to the bot to decide. It's up to the bot to decide. That's the backhander that we're pulling, is that we're not trying to make some sort of divine truth or fairness. We're trying to extract out of the model.
I see what you're saying.
Right?
It's like flop to the bot.
We're trying to get the flop. Yeah, but it's the flop under duress. It's, as we've learned, the flop is the best. But you can ask it or start it a different way each time, and the flop comes out, and every time, right? It's the flop of the bot that we're trying to make be the fairness. That's what we're trying to get out of here, because the amount of effort and training that these guys put into their models to make that flop be good, that's what we're trying to. That's the tool that we're trying to use. It's not the intelligence or anything.
I feel stupid now. Of course, because all of human knowledge, let's assume, is being poured into a model.
Yeah.
And if you say black is white, it's going to say no.
It's like, not. Sorry, bud.
You don't need to say. You don't need to know whether anyone has a reputation for flying.
It doesn't matter.
Is white, pink is white. It's like,
it doesn't matter.
No, it's so we are flopping on.
You could have the highest rep person in the world could come up to O3 and start talking smack, and it will shamelessly just go, no, mate, bravo. Sorry.
Yeah. That is a mistake in my thinking. I've still been thinking that what you said previously matters. is not.
No.
It's the axiom, the statement that you're making is being referred to not based on whether you're trustworthy or not. It's whether the sum of all human knowledge encapsulated in AI agrees with you. It's like, no, I'm sorry, black it's not white. Vaccines do work. Whatever.
And a lot of those things, they're really not our problem. Like, I don't see how vaccines working or not working has anything to do with the fairness of attribution.
Well,
Right? Like,
no, the importance is I state that hey, I've just done X amount of work, which is on the contribution, and I'm a project manager, and I reckon I'm worth 90% of all value from it. That is something that the bot would have an opinion on. It's like,
yeah,
not really.
exactly. And that's for version 1. That's all we're trying to get. As we learn more about what fairness means, that can be honed, but the principle is, I believe, identical. And these fundamental design, there are some fundamental design structures that cannot be avoided, some axioms, right? And number one is reputation doesn't matter. It's about the contribution and the attribution that's due to it. It's not about...
It's about a statement of fact, which is contribution.
Yeah, and it's not about anything else. There's no personal mumbo jumbo in it. It doesn't matter if you're like a murderer or not a murderer. It's not for us to decide that. We're just simply, like, there will be other layers that go in there later to deal with things like, well, you have a debt to society, and so we're going to clip your...
right. Exactly.
That's not our layer that we're at. We're just at the layer of, we're only looking at the contribution and the attribution, and we're that's the minimum.
A completely disinterested agent,
agnostic,
which is based on the latest model, which is only going to improve.
That's right.
In which case, it's just statements of fact.
Do you think you could do some runs on Codex to see if you can get a handle on how to reduce chats down to like atoms, or how you could?
Yeah. Pause. Well, here's a way of doing it. We've got many YouTube and recordings and that sort of thing. I could put those in.
No, man. No, I think you make a mistake every time you try to haul in what we've got already. I think the first version should be just simply looking at a public popular NPM package that has just a handful of contributors, like say 10. Those are fairly easy to find, and I think you
that would be simpler.
Simple first. You plug it into Alpha Evolve or whatever system you want to tinker with, and you start just imagining yourself as each contributor, where there will be someone who did project management, someone who did this and that, and you can start arguing with the bot with the goal that your arguments are being transformed into a knowledge base that gets used as the ground truth for the responses that the bot makes. And it's all we're trying to do. We're trying to give ground truth that evolves. Right.
So that would be easy enough. It could transform each. If you take a small enough repo, random repo, I can look at what the diffs were.
Yep.
And then store that as an axiom, or not an axiom, sorry, just a statement.
Yeah. You could probably you might even be able to fit a large number of the commits. I'll tell you what we could do. What you could do is you could squash every time there's a string of commits from a single person, you could squash it down to one commit. You could then take those commits and you could probably tokenize them and fit within the 200K window in a lot of cases, particularly for a small NPM module.
Yeah.
and then you could have the full history of the commits in the context window to start having your argument about.
So he did, she did,
He did shit, yeah. And so
Yeah.
what you're gonna get, and what you need to put in there as a cut or a system design structure is the difference between this specific thing I did and this general principle. So the knowledge base needs to consist of a range of principles, but also a range of specifics, which would be akin to the law and the case law. So the law itself, the legislation, and then the execution of it, because that matters too. And so sometimes you need to patch the law based on the case law that's going on, and other times you need to know about the case law because people want to point to specific things. Like they're like,
Right.
what about that guy over there? And they're
it's
like,
called common law, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
common law. And
yeah. And so you need the bot to
yeah.
be able to say, okay, yeah, I know about Fred, the project manager, who got 90% on that project, but here's why that was a special case, and this is how I arrived at that calculation. And then it needs to be like, so, you know, the general rule is blah, 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 and that's why you get 5%.
But then you need an adversarial manner in that the people involved.
It doesn't matter. It all balances out because the thing is, first of all, the bot has a good grounding itself, just standing alone. But second of all, whenever anybody sees an injustice occurring, people will speak up for free. In fact, they will pay for some tokens to say, look at the internet. You post something that's got a spelling mistake on Twitter and you'll get more fucking interactions with your tweet than you would if you posted something genuinely useful. Okay? Corrections seems to come, they'll pay you to correct you.
Yeah, because people get mad about trivial stuff. And
I disagree with that. I think it's deeper than that. I think it's that people are so they've been deprived of correctness or being right or being sure about something so much in the modern world that anytime they see something that's definitely something that they can correct, they pounce all on it as a compensation for their inability to be correct in the rest of their lives. But that doesn't matter.
They flop on easy stuff.
Yeah, so all I'm saying is that the bot provides basic grounding. Great. The adversary that sort of sways the bot one way, the check mechanism is that it's public, and then the public will come in with a counter argument which will sway the bot back. And over time, you'll get this bot that gets it right first time most of the time and is very difficult to sway and could talk to you till the cows came home about all these different cases and case laws and reasons for this and reasons for that.
Yes.
And then we'll take that simple one and we'll just go from there. I mean, that seems like the essence, the fundamental structure of it.
It does. It's going to be messy to start with, but then we want messy because then messy means that we get outrage. It's like, you didn't use the semicolon in the right way.
Yeah, it's like, oh, sorry about that.
Then
minus 10 points.
Okay, right. That's quite a big one. It's juicy.
I think it's the only one left, dude. Like, that's the thing that we have actually been inadvertently running away from. That's the thing.
Inadvertently, we specifically run away from it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I talking about this years ago, and
that's the thing that opens up everything for us, and that's the thing that we can now approach.
I agree. Okay.
So I need to keep getting the platform up now. Now that I have this tool, I'm like, we need to. I don't know how to go faster, but just doing it, spending the time on it, is about as fast as it can be right now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's cool because the last few weeks I feel I've been on a waiting pattern, waiting to land.
Yeah, I know. I'm real sorry about that.
No. It is just as reality is, demanded it. But now that the ball's in my court on the next juicy thing.
Mm.
Um, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I know how to do the first part for sure.
All right. Well, can I leave that to you? Because I think that kind of covers everything.
Yeah, and I'll probably take the weight off your shoulders and saying, repeatedly saying, "Oh, where's the platform? Where's the platform?"
Mm.
And you can now say, "Where's art? Where's attribution? Where's attribution?"
Yeah, right. That old chestnut. But yeah, I mean,
That's a juicy one.
this is the coolest machine I've ever seen. This thing, it is smoking hot, man.
I'm also keen to look at Alpha Evolve because
Yeah, we'll give it a shot too. I mean,
yeah, no, I'm not going to why because I'm just going to be regurgitating what he said.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, widgets is a go. Like that's a great pattern. It's working well.
Mm-hmm.
Vibe coding of widgets working great. Connecting up the platform working great. Everything's actually going great.
Well, on the off-platform side, we've got rapidly building hoppers full of doers and people who do and people who demand, and even people with capital. So
yeah, but I don't want to get caught up on any of them delaying ambient attribution because we know that they're there. We know that there's many more like them there. There's an unlimited supply of them, not to be rude, but we need ambient attribution or else we'll all just end up fighting like we always do about who gets paid how much and who did what work and who's not pulling their weight.
That wasn't the point. The point was we could have been building something that nobody cares about, and it appears that quite a lot of people.
I'm at the point now where actually I care about it and I know how to make a lot of money out of just having it and not sharing it. So I'm not even worried if people don't want to use it. Like I'm like, yeah.
No, well, let's share it.
I'm not. I wasn't saying we're not going to share it. I'm just saying that I could give a fuck if no one wants to use it. Like I've got use for it. I've got use.
Yeah. Richie's this week comes. Either way, but it'd be good to do some good. Okay. I don't think I've got any other points.
Me neither, my friend. But I think we need to. We actually need to pull out all the stoppers and be as fast as we can in this last little bit because this thing should cost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the way that we need to use it, that OpenAI's codex should cost a lot of money and they deserve to charge a lot of money for it. And we don't want to get stuck with being stalled and having like a $10,000 a week AI bill when we don't have the platform generating revenue to cover it. You know, like that's a horrible position.
Yeah. And the flip side is also true. You know that old axiom: the longer a project gets, the harder it is to launch.
I don't think we have that problem.
I don't think we have it now. I think we're on a ski jump.
We have it. We know what we're going to launch. You know, we got a mock-up of it, and we're just connecting it up. We know how people put money in. We know how they use it to get value out. We have people that already want to get value out of it. That all seems trivial. What we don't have is an agent that says what's fair.
That might seem hubris, but we've been talking about how to do that Seems doable.
It's time to do it, man.
With the tools that we've got, it sounds doable.
It is
The
doable,
thing,
and it's time to do it.
all we're asking, the leap of faith is trust in the bot that is making these decisions. And here's how it's making decisions. And you can argue, and you can look at history. You can argue the toss as much as you want.
Yep.
Just trust in the bot.
Yep.
That's really the leap of faith.
Yep.
And if you get it, you get it. If you don't, go somewhere else.
Yep. That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah. Okay, nice one. Right. What time is it? I need to probably go. I hear dogs barking. Actually, I've got a bit of time. Anything else to go through, or shall we upload?
No, that's it. I mean, you don't need to show me need me to show you how you do a pull request or anything like that, right? Like it's super nice. Oh, that's what I wanted to show you. In the back end, when you're setting this up, what you're going to need to do is you're in Codex. You need to go to environments, and then you need to go. You can go create new environment.
That's the sandbox Ubuntu.
Yeah. But you need to go into what's critical is you need to go into advanced, and then you need to put in a setup script. So for all of my projects, if it's a Deno project, if it's a Node project, I have to go npm install, because the catch is the net gets cut after setup is run, and the sandbox is without network.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's
so
good.
watch.
That's
So
catch. Okay.
yeah. So watch
Right.
this. Watch this. If I show you the logs here, it at the top it does its environment setup, which runs that script, and then you get this message: internet turned off. And so if you haven't pulled down your dependencies, like your tests won't run or your build won't run because you didn't pull in all the dynamic stuff.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
The second thing to be aware of is this this file called agents.md, which is what Codex will look for. And so I got Codex to write this after reading the repo, but this is where you put like the sys prompt that you want for that repo. So keep that in mind. And then the last thing I want to share with you is that in Codex, you can go get $50 US of AI credits if you go and fire up the CLI Codex and use the ChatGPT Pro login. So yeah, anyway, fun times. But
I've probably already done that.
No, because they changed it. You used to need to put in an API key, and they're trying to promote that you can actually use your ChatGPT login instead of your API key.
Yeah, no, I've done that. I've gone through the portal, and it said, "Hey, Codex." I went, "You, Codex," and then it took me through an install script or process.
Oh, okay.
So,
but I mean, like these benchmarks are fucking O1 High or O1 Pro is like, not looking so good. But this is not fair. Like this benchmark, right? Like it doesn't show that looping, the power of that looping and grinding and just,
Yeah, but the thing is, you're going to get diminishing returns, and the fact that it's at 75% means that is 3 cycles to get to 99.9.
So this is the thing I wanted to show you. This is the sys prompt that they give Codex under the hood.
Okay.
So you probably want to read that,
Yeah.
because that's what you're going to be fighting against if you go to prompt against it. You know, like you don't want to fight that. But man, it's got some great features. Like you can ask it to come up with some tasks, and then like it'll do some work, come up with some tasks, and all you got to do is press go, and it will create the task for itself from that task that it made in the chat stream.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it'll like self-delegate. It's incredible, man.
I've seen that. I've actually been playing with that in a very basic
Right.
way. But,
So if you get stuck at all with setting up an environment, let me know, because that took me a bit of diddling around with to get it going. But you can do pretty much everything. I filed a ticket. I was the first one to file a bug on the repo for this image, funny enough, because I was like, where the hell's Deno? Like, if you got Bun, like, Bun's, like, younger and smaller than Deno, like, you know, where's it at? So, yeah, but hopefully, I mean, yeah, custom images coming soon. I mean, that's dope. You load up your own freaking Docker image and off you go. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, and have you played around with any of this stuff? This side?
I have.
Oh,
I have.
okay. All right.
I'm about 3 hours into it, so.
All right. So yeah,
down,
that's the only real gotcha, is you must do everything that needs the net here, otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I've not tried to. All I've been doing is ask.
Well, even when you ask, it tries to run things to verify that it's giving. You know, like it's not afraid to run. It's got there's no like hesitation for it to make changes to the disk, because it knows that it's in a branch.
I've had no problems with that so far. Probably because
I think it's also
I'm running it.
It's also quite telling that this is all Git centric, which precisely fits our model. Like without even. There's no loss, there's no anything. And we're like, full fidelity, this is our model. We don't have any loss there. So that's great. It's nice that they converged on the same thing. I mean, honestly, what else could you do?
Possibly something else that I haven't.
Yeah, but it does sort of speak to something about that. We knew that this was coming because we designed Artifact to say, like, okay, you need sandboxes and you need branches. You need to fork production and you need to grind away. So,
right. I would say that's wind behind our sails.
Wind behind our sails. Yeah,
slightly scary, because you can also get a storm behind your sails, which is not so good.
I think the storm is here, buddy. I feel like this is the day that the 30-second clapper went off. It's like, if you're not at the start line, but it's like the gun's about to fire, and if you're not there, the race is gonna start without you. Get in position. That's what I feel like it is.
Right. You're off to run the London Marathon, and it's like the klaxon goes off, and oh shit, I've got to get my train.
Yeah.
From Manchester.
So let's not be late. So I don't know how. I know that, you know, we have been burning pretty hard for a couple of years now, but I feel like this is like the sprint to the.
I agree.
To the starting line.
Slight
and
feelings about it, but I agree.
If you think of something that could help you go faster or me go faster, let me know. My current strategy is just be methodical about it. So like, don't stay up late, you know, get enough sleep, eat well, exercise, still do those things, but just spend every waking moment in Codex and always have plates spinning at maximum rate, because that seems to be how you get the most stuff done now.
Well, interesting enough, I'm very comfortable with having multiple tabs, as you know.
This system was made for you, I think. This is the multi-tab system.
Yeah. That shouldn't be a problem.
All right, cool. I'll stop recording,
Yeah.